All right, guys, welcome. So I have started the stream a little early, as per usual these days, and I just wanted to make sure that everything is running properly. My laptop wants to kind of catch on fire. So this is an older laptop. It's probably 3-ish years old now, which isn't bad, except that I'm kind of asking it to do a lot. So having it do a lot of the broadcasting software stuff, it's no fun for it. So let me know if my audio sounds okay, because I'm doing something slightly different with microphones right now. It seems a little high. Can you guys hear me okay? If not, just let me know. But I think that the mic levels are a little high, so I might turn it down just a little bit. Okay, that might be a little bit too much. Hold on. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a different microphone arrangement that I'm usually doing. I'm using a wireless one, you can kind of see here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I kind of want to be able to move around a little bit more, because I have a couple of things to show. So again, welcome everyone. Take a look to see if everything is working properly here. And I do have to remember that there's always a 30-second delay, so if there's any kind of lag in me responding or not, that's probably why. So already I can tell that there's something up because I'm not seeing any of the new chat. So I am curious to see if I have to rebuild this thing here. Yep, that's what I thought. So what you're seeing on screen is not the chat. So let me go ahead and delete that. I had to do something a little different with the what do you call it? When I first started up the broadcast. Okay, let me just quickly scan here. I'll put the chat back up. It was kind of stuck on there. We drinking or what? Dubsy Dabster, no drinking. Rico's reef tank, hey, what's up? I'm going to be showing your tank again in a little bit, just to show it in the context of the camera that I want to be talking about. Okay, so audio sounds good. If I need to turn it up a little bit more, just let me know. Chat in the screen is not working, correct? Can you talk about tridacna clams? Maybe. What have I missed? Nothing yet. Okay, so let me work for just a moment here to get this chat back on screen here. All right. So I go to screen capture. I want to select a window. Am I doing this wrong? Window, don't show cursor, select which one I want to show, which is the chat. That ain't it. Hold on, let me try that again. That is still definitely not it. Why am I like suddenly so computer illiterate? I used to be smarter. Okay, something is very clearly goofy because I'm selecting the right stuff, but the wrong stuff is popping up. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Yikes. All right, boom. Move this off to the side here. Move it off to the side. And I'm gonna just tweak it just a little bit here because I don't like to see the tops and the bottoms. Cut that off. cut the bottom off, and I'll scale it up a little bit. Okay. Right. Okay. One thing I wanted to quickly cover is the new camera. So I'm gonna show you this, guys, real quick. So this is the new guy here. This is a Canon C200. And this is the camera that I use to shoot Rico's tank. And it's pretty nice. I'm very happy with it. So I was waiting a really good long time to have somebody manufacture a camera with all the specifications that I wanted. Kind of going from regular photography to videography, it was quite a bit of a learning curve. Like, I couldn't really understand why people would want or need more than like what a digital SLR would give you in terms of just video, because most digital SLRs that are stills cameras can shoot video. The very first one I ever used was a Canon 5D. It was actually the first camera, period, that shot full HD video. That's 1080p. And I used that for years. And there's these other companies that made video cameras like Red and stuff, and the price tag was way higher. And I could never really quite figure out what justified the price hike. And finally, after a few years, Canon put out like an entry-level cinema camera called the C100, and that's the one that's currently filming this guy here. So no, this is the C200. The one that's actually shooting is a C100. And that's the one I've been using for live shows. That's the one I've been using now for about 3 years or so. And that really was an education, because there's so much more that goes into video cameras that I never really like fully grasped. Like, because a stills camera, for the most part, happens to do video. It's not really purpose-built to do video. So there's a bunch of little features and a lot of optimization that goes into making a true cinema camera. And like, once I got into that C100, I was absolutely hooked. I was never going to shoot video again with that Canon 5D, like the stills. And so, but after about 3 years, the thing about Canon is that I guess their fit and finish, their ergonomics are top notch. And when they make a camera, they really do make it professional quality for use in the field. The problem is, though, they're not specs monsters. So if you look at their capabilities compared to whatever else is in the market, it's not great. It's just not that great. And I don't really know what the deal is with that. So yeah, long story short, it's kind of weird. So they're generally underpowered. Anyway, so once they finally did release one with the specs I wanted, I was pretty happy. And I have a feeling that the chat window still isn't working, is it? Because I'm like looking and it doesn't seem to be moving. All right, let's try this one more time. If not, I'll just have to, I'll have to pretend. All right, here. There's like all this other stuff that seems to be working. Okay, let me try this one more time. You goofy screen captures. Okay, screen capture. I want a new one. I want to capture video. I want to capture window. I'm going to not show the cursor. I'm going to select the Safari window, and this is the chat. Okay, so hopefully this is working. Boom, working, yes, no, hopefully. Okay, there we go, I think. Well, third time's a charm, I guess. Okay, and I apologize. I missed a bunch of your chat, so let me scroll up a bit. Volume is cut off. Can you guys hear me? Okay, audio is okay. All right. Can't hear anything. All right. Cost of the camera, it's a bunch. Yeah, you can see it in chat. Once it's fully kitted out, it's going to be probably 5 figures, because like the camera doesn't come with a lens or anything like that, so you need to buy the lens. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to bring up the camera is for the purpose of live shows, I can't show you anything near the quality that's capable with the camera. And you've heard me complain many, many times about my lack of upload speed. And that's just kind of, the bummer about working with, regular internet service providers. It's just that a lot of times, like with cable providers, they give you what they kind of want to. And unfortunately, with the upload speeds that are offered in this area, it's pathetic. It's barely enough to get you guys a 720p stream. I can't even do full 1080 without it like dropping so many frames that it's going to be a problem. So yeah, I'm going to turn up the volume just a little bit here. Okay, just a tad. Okay, so hopefully audio still works. And I did mention this earlier, but another thing is I'm working with a wireless microphone this time around because I want to be able to move around just a little bit more than usual. Okay, so back to my original point. Cinema camera and why I'm bringing it up. So for the live shows, what we've done is we use the C100, which is the camera that I've been using for years. And what I do is we put that on a motorized slider, and then we operate that manual, and it is literally broadcasting live as I'm speaking and everything like that. And it works out great because we're capped at 720p, which is, it's HD, but it's not full HD even. Well, all of my friends, all of them practically in this whole area, they all now have fiber except me. The one person that could really, really use fiber does not have fiber. But what I was thinking is maybe what I could do is shoot all of the corals the day before, shoot video of all of the corals the day before, and then do a live show where I, on screen, am live, but the corals were shot yesterday using the cinema camera. And then I could then go to one of my friends' locations, have them on the show as well to talk about their tanks and whatever's going on there, as well as having a very high quality stream because I would be able to upload using their fiber and having footage from the new camera, but the corals themselves technically would not be live. They would have been shot yesterday. So I am kind of curious, like once the stream is over, whatever, leave me a comment or even just toss it into chat. What do you think of that? Like, because the nice thing about a live sale, like the one that's happening tomorrow, by the way, 2 p.m. Eastern, is that you do actually see the coral live. But I was just thinking, people still are shopping Monday and Tuesday after the show, or Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday after the actual show anyway, and that's technically not live. So I was kind of curious to hear what you guys thought of that, because the quality potentially would be a lot better if I was able to pre-record the corals the day before, go to a friend's place with fiber, and upload everything at a super, super, super high data rate. So anyway, something to mull over. And maybe I'll just try it first with maybe one of these Friday hangouts, and just try, you know, shooting with the better camera at their place, and see how that goes first, just to kind of like test the water before actually doing a live show that way. But that's something that I'm kind of considering, because we're really, we're capped right now with just our ability to upload better imagery. And none of my other friends have that problem. And so I was just thinking of maybe doing like a show at their place and just kind of like move around between those guys. And again, have different guests and a much better quality stream. So anyway, that's the technical side of things. Okay, let me see if I can go over some questions here. Ooh, okay. Brian Tatgenhorst, hello from Youngstown, Ohio. Hello, Brian. My tuxedo urchin ate my baby discosomas. I could see that. Sometimes urchins can get a little nibbly on stuff. Usually they just eat coralline algae, though. They typically don't mess with coral that bad. Stool, what's so bad about flower pots? The bad thing about flower pots really comes down to their reputation at this point. The thing is, for the longest time, flower pot corals, these are Goniopora, the ones that were getting imported really struggled in home aquariums. So they would live for about 6 months, look fine, and then in 2 days they'd be dead. And that's in large part just because of the species that they are. There's 20-something species, and some of them are actually bulletproof. Some of them are very, very hardy, and we've got a few. Like the Harlequin variety, which is kind of like a purple and green, and then we have a red one now, and those are very hardy corals. But there's other ones that just for whatever reason just seem to not do very well. And those have kind of been the ones getting the most attention as far as, you know, whether or not to recommend Goniopora. So long story short, that's it. It just has a bad reputation. There are definitely ones out there that are just fine. I got a female Melanaris wrasse. Will she pair with my male? Maybe, Thomas. This is from Thomas Salter. It's possible. I personally haven't kept 2 Melanaris wrasses together. Maybe some of the more fish savvy folks can help you out with that. Where can I get good quality aquariums? These days, I think like the best quality aquariums are going to be from custom manufacturers. Unfortunately, they come with a higher price tag. The 3 that come to mind here in like the U.S. North America area, it's going to be like Reef Savvy, Coast to Coast. Those are both American, and there's a Canadian company called Miracles. I would look at those 3 first. Cherry Corals is having a live sale tomorrow as well. Does Cherry Corals equal Tidal Gardens? No, we're completely different companies. I mean, I know those guys, they're cool guys, but no. Different companies. They're in Michigan, I'm in Ohio. I mean, here's the thing. We don't schedule our live show around anything other than our availability. So oftentimes, I mean, if you just do the math, we do a live show, 1 or 2 live shows a month. So pick a weekend. If you have a 1 in 4 chance of running into our live show. So we don't schedule it however you want, but there's always a 25% chance that our live show is going to be scheduled on top of another event. We do one every month, if not 2. But usually like our additional live shows are more for what do you call it? Like special events, Halloween, basically. Let's see. Thanks for the time again. Suits us in the UK just fine. No problem. It suits us pretty well too, because this is a kind of like the live Q&A before the actual live show tomorrow. So everybody kind of mark your calendars if you're not already planning on participating. It's tomorrow, 2 p.m. Because like in the afternoon here, I have to upload all the coral data to actually put it onto the site for you guys to purchase. So yeah, this works good. So hello, Psychedelic Babe, long-time viewer. King of Soul, the wireless mic sounds perfect. Thank you. I don't know how much batteries it has, so we shall see if this stream gets cut short because I just straight up ran out of batteries on the receiver. Okay, camera. Okay. Let's see. Would Australian flower pots do better? Potentially. I've seen several that have done quite nicely. The red ones are the hardiest from personal experience. Yeah, like I said, the harlequin ones and the red ones for us have kind of split the duties on which is the most hardy, I think. Can you talk about care requirements for pectinia? Maybe a video down the road. Actually, we've done a video on pectinia. You might want to do a quick search for that, but we might do. So again, because of, here, I'll just I can show it. Because of this guy, new camera, yay. There's a good chance that I'm going to be redoing a whole bunch of the videos that I've done. So yeah, there's a good chance that I might just be revisiting a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, a pectinia video in the future might be a possibility. I mean, like Rico's tank that I shot the other day. So I've done two quick little videos about his tank, but the reason why I'm like so excited because like the footage came out so well. I mean, like so well, and I just couldn't be happier with like how everything turned out. And I'm just thinking about all the corals previously that we've done, and I'm just thinking we could just do them all again in higher quality with more in-depth information, because it's probably been in some cases like a year or two since I did that video. And we've learned a lot since then. The industry has learned a lot since then about particular corals. So hopefully we can just get back and doing that. And the other thing is, like, we've done 200 or something videos, 200 plus videos. And after a while, it gets tough to come up with new topics that we simply haven't covered. I mean, I still have a list that I'm working through, but to be able to kind of like revisit a lot of stuff and to just show everything better might be something that's worth exploring. Okay. And back. What's the thumbnail for tomorrow's live sale? I don't know. Ben hasn't made one yet. Or if he has made one, I don't know what it is. Sorry, I missed some questions. I'm sorry. Can you make a video on acan echinata? Yeah, I should be able to. I mean, we've shot some footage in the past, and currently we don't have very many for me to actually sit down and shoot with. But yeah, we get them every now and again, so I'll put that on the list. Yep, found the pectinia video. Good. Do you have Aqua One in America? If so, their tanks are good enough for reef. I'm not familiar with that brand. That camera looks something like from Call of Duty. Very cool. Thanks. Yeah, hopefully I can get it to the airport with no issues. Best way to clean aquarium glass for filming. I use a metal scraper. I have a glass aquarium, and just the speed that you're able to do like an entire aquarium with, just 5 minutes for an aquarium. Have you had coffee yet? I have had 1 cup, I believe. I've got a baby blue hippo in my 16-gallon. It's so cute. It's gonna get big. I have to warn you. Those are very, very big fish. We have one in a 90, and it's practically outgrown it. Bob Dale, when corals start to get crowded, is it better to trim them back or let them fight it out? I personally am in the trim them camp. because the problem with some corals is that once they touch, it's not just like, oh, they're just going to do battle right at that edge. Sometimes they both die back like 70%. And once they die back to that extent, oftentimes they'll just start to crash from there. So yeah, I would before they started to get into that touching fighting stage. Ezekiel Valesco, what do you think about bare bottom tanks? I just restarted my 180 and now it's a bare bottom. Uh, I'm neither here nor there on that. I think that tanks with a substrate look better. I'll just show Rico's tank again, because I mean, like, look at this. I tend to like this aesthetic, right? I like how the contrast of like the white bottom helps illuminate all the corals. But at the same time, there is something nice about bare bottom and how clean it is, or how easy it is to clean, I should say. So in that sense, there's certainly a lot of benefits to it, especially if you're like a coral farmer, like I am, just to be able to get in there, scrape everything up, and then just siphon up the loose particles that kind of all accumulate in little mounds. That's nice for maintenance because you can just do that like once a month and your whole place is like crystal clear. Having said that, I think that there's a lot of positives about having like live rock spaces and things like sand to encourage like a microfauna, and that helps to stabilize everything. So it's a little bit of both, I guess. Okay. Kevin Vilchis. Hey, I just started a breeder tank, longfin clowns, and I want to add coral for the first time in a 20, not for the clowns to host. What do you recommend? First time with coral? Well, if you're first time with coral, I always recommend like the really safe stuff. So the really safe stuff would be things like, oh, of course, I just changed it right when it's showing the clowns here. The really safe stuff would be things like leathers, mushrooms, things of that sort. Because they tend to be the most, I guess, tolerant of all kinds of neglect. So yeah, maybe zoanthids if you're into that. Is your favorite coral still Blastos? I kind of don't have a favorite coral. It kind of comes and goes. We just got really, 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 really cool Blastomussa merlettis just yesterday from our supplier. Like, this guy does a bunch of importing, and then it was like the most he's ever paid for Blastomussa, or actually the most he's ever paid for coral, period. It was a shocking sum. So we got a few polyps of it, and I'm very enthused. It's going to be a while before we sell them, unfortunately, because we only got like a couple polyps, but they look really cool. Okay, 2 please, 122474. Is green algae that grows or looks like coralline algae common? It could be a coralline algae. There's all different types of coralline. I think most people kind of point to like the purple stuff and say, oh, that's coralline. But there's a lot of different types. There's red plating, there's like bright orange ones if you have enough light. And I'm sure there's green ones as well. Dan, what's your opinion on urchins? They're probably more of a hassle than they're worth. We have an urchin. It's like a little black spiny one, and it doesn't really do anything. It eats some coralline algae, which is fine, but it doesn't really do it very, very quickly or anything. So it's not exactly like good for maintenance. It just kind of is there. And so the downside to urchins is they bulldoze coral. And so for me, I probably wouldn't be in a huge hurry to get more. Julian Diaz, what kind of saltwater fish is your favorite for a 250-liter aquarium? So since I'm in barbarian land, I'm not exactly sure how much 250 liters is. I could Dr. Google that, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that's about 75 gallons. So what's my favorite saltwater fish? It's going to be the saltwater fish that do jobs. So if you remember from just from seeing some of my older streams and as well as like Rico's tank, it's basically all these are very utilitarian fish, like the wrasses, the damsels. They provide pest control. The tangs and the fox faces provide nuisance algae control, things like that. So for me, I guess my little trifecta of fish, it's going to be a fox face, a copper band butterfly, and a wrasse of some sort, or maybe multiples. Okay. Mia Relis, any light recommendations for a 30-gallon cube? Trying to be on a budget. If you're on a budget, you should probably check out Amazon and see if you can find like a 2-foot T5 fixture. That's going to be really, really inexpensive, and T5 is going to be a very high quality light for you. Later on, you might want to get an LED fixture, and I say that because of energy and heat related issues. But if you're looking at purely inexpensive, the Amazon ones are very, very cheap. Is it bad if a bubble tip anemone is bubbled a lot? I don't think so. Why do zoas stay compact and some have extended polyps? So Neil, that is actually a point of concern, because sometimes when they're contracted like that, it's because something is eating them. So you might have to take a really close look to see if there's any nudibranchs or starfish or something like that, or a snail eating them. Rico's tank looks like something that would be in a documentary. Yeah, it's a very nice tank. It's one of the nicest I've seen, no question. Let's see. Telegram. Hi, Than. Dig the series. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm glad you guys like it. Johnny. Is it true if you can keep Acropora, then you should be able to keep every other coral with reasonable success? Thanks. Well, Acropora are going to be, I guess, the most challenging mainstream coral. You can get into some coral that are way more difficult than Acropora, and you're probably not going to be successful with that because nobody's really successful with that. And what I mean by that is like Dendronephthia and things like that that are non-photosynthetics. But would you be successful with everything else? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the sort of system that you have Acropora in might not be well suited for anything else. But if you wanted to then set up a separate system to do like LPS and some soft corals, you shouldn't have a lot of trouble if you have like a background in dealing with the hassle that is SPS. I mean, specifically Acropora. They're not going to be nearly as touchy. Number 35, Rossi's Reef. Thank you so much, Stan, for making Rico's video. It was amazing. Glad you liked it. Especially for those that can't see it in person. Yeah, it's like, that's the first time I ever saw it. I'm like, well, it's a good subject to shoot. Thomas Salter, how dangerous are zoanthids really? I'm thinking of getting some and then watch the video saying they're very dangerous. How dangerous are they really? Let's see. There's probably tens of thousands of people currently in this country that have them. I'm going to guess that of those tens of thousands, 1 or 2 have ever used gloves to hold them or to propagate them. I'm going to go ahead and say that they're probably completely 100% safe. 100% might be not accurate. Probably 99% safe, because that 1% will absolutely kill you. So the thing about zoanthids and Paleothella is that some varieties, more so on the Pali side than the Zoa side, contain something called palitoxin, which is a very, very, very potent neurotoxin, as well as it's cytotoxic, which means it'll actually break apart like cells. And if you get palitoxin poisoning, it could be lethal. You'll at the very least get extremely sick to the point that you might be feeling the effects a decade later. So in that sense, you could be as careful as you want to not even get them in the first place. You could wear gloves. You can do all sorts of things. I do have to say though, just keeping it real, almost nobody that has these corals takes any special precaution. Good or bad? Let's see. I bought a foxface after you recommended one in your videos. They're very nice fish. They're one of my favorite things that get stuff done. The only problem is sometimes mine get nibbly on corals, especially ones that we put in that are new to that aquarium. They get very curious and they just start messing with it. They're like cats. You don't like clownfish? Speedy, no. I'm not a clownfish guy. All the clownfish that we have came as like refugees in some way, shape, or form, some kind of rescue. We no longer even take them. Like, they're such jerks. Melanaris wrasses are great. I would consider a few. They jump out less than other wrasses too. Knock on wood, but they seem to be pretty good for that. You don't worry about butterflies nipping corals. If it's a copper band, I don't. So copper bands, I mean, some butterflies are obligate corallivores, meaning that they have to eat corals. And obviously I'm going to be staying well away from those, but I've never had a copper band give me any issues. So I feel perfectly comfortable. And the service that they provide is that they eat Aptasia, which is kind of like a little nuisance anemone. It's not a huge issue, but it's not a huge issue because there's so many ways to control it, and the copper band to me is like the best way. Water. Don't get your hopes up. Would you recommend letting rocks in an aquarium get covered by the pink xenia corals? Do they have any positive or negative effect? You could do that. I think the issue that people kind of run into is that, oh, it reaches like a plague proportion and it gets on your glass and everything and it's just everywhere. They don't necessarily like to suddenly crash or anything like that, because some things like macroalgae could potentially do that. But I think that the big drawback is it'll just kind of like suffocate out everything. And I don't even know if they're really that aggressive. It's just that sometimes people don't like to look after 90% of all the flat surfaces in your tank are covered by xenia. Is the art behind you supposed to make you look like underwater? That is an interesting question. So there's two different little shelves up there. I just like the shape. It is kind of a coincidence that it is kind of like a wave, but those are cat trees. So my cats climb up there and they sleep. My cats are very spoiled. My Seriatopora, so this is from Noah Picilny. My Seriatopora is extremely sensitive to light. Is that normal? It bleaches in the same lighting that my Discosoma loves. That's interesting. I wouldn't expect it to be quite that sensitive. I guess it depends on what type of bird's nest you have also. So for example, the pink variety for us tends to like more light than other varieties. Some varieties don't like a lot of light at all, like the greens or bird of paradise. They tend to do a little bit better in lower light. Can lawyer justice, can baby anemones be on live rock? Because I found what looks like a tiny anemone and it closes up in white with an orange base. Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, what you described there could actually be a corallomorph called a pseudocoronactus. Sometimes they come in as hitchhikers. It could also be Mojano anemone, which is a pest. Kind of depends. I'd have to see a picture. But yeah, you can get little hitchhikers like that all the time. Ivan Santos Castellado, my foxface got nibbly on a trichophilia. Super unexpected. Yeah, unfortunately that can happen. I've had them like munch on chalices and stuff like that, but usually it's because I put in a new coral and it just gets very curious, it just starts nibbling. Thomas Salter, is a foxface safe with coral? Yes, for the most part. We just talked about it nibbling, but yeah, I would say so. And are you likely to get hurt by their spines in their back? It's never happened to me. I'm sure that some people have gotten stung by it. It's possible, I guess, but no. I think if you pay attention, it's not going to be an issue. I mean, we have a foxface that is so like, he's so friendly and so tame And whenever I'm scraping, when you run the scraper, it makes like this little green edge of algae, and when I lift the scraper up, that little edge makes like a perfect little snack for herbivores. And so this fish, while I'm scraping, will have his body touching my hand the entire length of the scrape. And it's just one of those things where like you just have to be aware. And in this case, like this fish has never stung me, not once. It's just super calm, and you just kind of have to, again, pay attention. Because I think sometimes what people don't do is they kind of lose track of it. They just start scraping because they get too focused on the algae or something like that, or they're moving a rock and don't quite see that fish hiding behind there. So just got to watch out for that. So likely? No, not really. Not likely to get hurt. I have a 50-gallon aquarium, wondering what algae controlling fish I could get. Maybe a small foxface. You might be better off with snails. And the reason why I'm saying foxface and not like a lawnmower blending of what Death Mage is suggesting is that there's a lot of things that can handle microalgae, like the films and stuff like that. So like lawnmower blendings would be more suited for that. But to handle macroalgae growth, you kind of have to have like a tang or a foxface. And given the choice of the two, I kind of like foxface is better. Xenia coral growing, other ones are not. What's going on? Sometimes Xenia just does not like where it is, and they struggle. Lawyer Justice, what eats fireworms? A lot of things. You can try wrasses, you can try butterflies actually. Like a copperband butterfly loves worms. Dubsy Dabster, cat trees, so cool. Yeah, I've got cat trees and cat shelves all over this place, and they look like art. They look like that stuff. What are your thoughts on Jake Adams? Met the guy a couple times. Don't have much of an opinion, I guess. I don't really know him. You probably have literally like 100 times more exposure to Jake than I typically do. And that kind of goes for a lot of like online personalities. Like, what do you think of Sanjay? I literally met the guy once. Like, what do you think of, I don't know, who else? I don't know. Of so-and-so. Like, I might have either met them one time, no times, or anything. And I don't really consume a lot of media in this space, believe it or not. So it's not like I spend a lot of time on, you know, like reading like blogs or message boards or watching other people's videos. I mean, I just simply don't. I mean, it's not casting judgment on anybody's production. It's just realistically, when I have free time, I'm watching a movie or something like that. It's never coral reef related. Okay, I was wondering if feeding corals is necessary, as most aquarists I speak to. So Johnny, that's a tough one. I think that when it comes to feeding, certain corals benefit from it a lot more than others. Some people would, for some corals, it's practically necessary. For other corals, you're kind of just polluting the water, and it's not really helping anything. So it's kind of species specific there, I would say. But generally speaking, I think that attempting feeding is better than not. Have you heard of an instance of a clam hosting a clownfish? Yeah, it's not exactly great for the clam. And again, clownfish are jerks. Foxface usually jump out of the aquarium? Not usually, but it's happened. I've had everything jump out of an aquarium. I've had many kinds of fish make it out. Shanil Kumar. Hi Than, hello from Dublin, Ireland. I have Caulerpa and a Lieutenant Tang, but it doesn't even touch it. Any recommendations? If it's Caulerpa, definitely foxface. Like some tangs aren't great at eating macroalgae, and that's kind of why hedged more towards foxfaces than tangs. Foxfaces tend to be a lot less temperamental than tangs, and they do a much better job of eating macroalgae. Like zebrasoma tangs tend to do better with algae, specifically macroalgae, than like a cantharus or. But naso are pretty good. Like naso and zebrasoma, I would say, are kind of like the tip top of the list as far as algae eaters that I would recommend. But like nasos. And like large flamingos and stuff like that, they're just too big generally. So if you had to have a tang to do that job, I'm looking at zebrasoma varieties from that genus. D. Bailey, started my cycle 10 plus weeks ago. Nitrite spike for over 6 weeks. Some nitrite, 3, and nitrates are off the charts. Should I do a water change to get the nitrates down before zero nitrite? 10 weeks, you could still kind of be in your cycle. Like, it really kind of depends on your system. You could do a water change, but I would probably just wait it out personally. Thomas, 2 tank-bred Ocellaris and a bubble anemone. Are there any way to get the clowns to host without taking them out of the tank? Not really. Well, not that I know of, because tank-raised clowns, the one downside for folks that want to keep clowns is that they kind of lose that instinct sometimes to host in anything. Or they host in dumb stuff. They'll host like right next to a pump. It'll make like no sense. Justin Mary, my Falco foxface, not sure what that is, but I'm just gonna assume regular foxface, keeps stealing all my corals' food from them. Get rid of him or no? What you can probably do that would help is if you put an algae clip first and wait, I don't know, half hour for the fish to kind of gorge itself on the algae and then feed. Because it's less likely to mess with the coral feeding if it's already satiated. And having the ability to just to let it graze like that beforehand helps a lot with feeding later. After watching Chasing Coral, do you think that it's something that we as a community can do to help coral survive? Not as a hobby. I think that's going to be an entire societal thing. I use peppermint shrimp to get rid of aptasia. I've tried copper band butterflies and was picking a coral. No, that's too bad. So peppermint shrimp I kind of have a love-hate relationship. I think that like one of our peppermints today got really, really, really big and killed my Yasahasa goby. So I'm not exactly high on peppermints all the time. So peppermints can cause trouble in their own right because they're like, they're large kind of crustaceans. And anytime that you run into like, that sort of thing, they can turn a little nibbly on smaller stuff. How do you feel about GSP for beginner coral? I just started. So Alfred, they're fine. I think that the only thing that I would really recommend, because they don't need to have very special instructions for a coral like that. They do grow quickly and healthy if you provide a lot of flow. That's probably the most important thing. And the reason why I say that is sometimes debris gets caught on its base, and then that tends to grow algae, and then it tends to keep the colony closed. So if you provide a lot of flow, it keeps that whole thing clean, and then once it starts to grow, it's a very, very fast grower. Okay, so Daniel Salt. Follow-up questions on Facebook the other day from Fragging Pectinia. Do you snip off any little bit, or must a polyp be taken, so to speak? That's a tough one, because sometimes, so we cut everything with our bandsaw, and we generally try to get a 1 to 2 inch piece of it. So like any little tiny piece probably isn't, like if you just cut off a little tip, might not do anything good for you. And it's kind of hit or miss. Like sometimes like we cut a colony and like nothing survives. Other times we cut a colony and everything is fine. But in general, 1 to 2 inch pieces I would stay with. Consent 21. My yellow tang is obsessed with my pistol shrimp. Has anyone witnessed this relationship? Tang lays sideways right in front of its cave and even gets grabbed and pulled into the cave without... Okay. Sometimes like pistol shrimp look like cleaners, and maybe that's kind of the interaction that the tang is looking for. Any recommendations for RODI wastewater uses? You can look online. I think that there's people that have done all sorts of stuff with it, like using it in like washing machines and stuff like that. Alaskan bullworm. How long does it take dry rock to get color? It really depends, and a lot of it has to do with water chemistry and abundance of like calcium alkalinity, that sort of thing. So it's one of those things where like one day you notice a little bit, and very quickly whole tank is purple, that sort of thing. Okay. You could drink the wastewater line. Yeah, you could. A lot of people don't quite understand, like the wastewater line of an RO system is oftentimes very clean compared to what went into it. Because if you look at like a typical RO system, you're talking about something that has gone through usually a sediment filter and a carbon stage before hitting the actual RO membrane. So what's getting kicked out of the RO membrane is still cleaner than anything that went into that thing to begin with. So you absolutely could drink it. Than, how do you stay so vibrant and youthful appearance? It's CGI. Faraz Reef. Why coral aren't happy in summer even in my reef tank temperature is perfect? Thank you. Could be for a number of reasons. Like what we've discovered here is that it's probably less about heat than it is about other things. So maybe even if there's like a window that's providing light that's throwing off their rhythm because they're used to like, let's say 8 to 10 hour days, and now they're getting like 15-hour days. That could be a thing. Also, depending on like how sealed up your house is, like just stuff can be blowing in from outside. If you like open windows and things like that, you might be getting like dust and pollen that's different in the summertime. Thomas, a lot of people say 1 inch per gallon. It seems like a lot to me. What rule do you follow? I'm kind of on the fence now because I'm starting to notice that there is a benefit to having a lot of fish. Like a lot of fish equals healthier and happier corals. Now you kind of have to balance that with, are the fish then getting stressed out and not growing to their fullest potential? So if a fish doesn't grow to its fullest potential, it usually dies early from like stunted growth. That's not exactly a great thing to have happen. So I mean, what I tend to do is I have oversized aquariums. Okay. Doctor of Walsh Magic. What's up, Dan? How's it going? A ton of people do 3 inches per 5 gallons or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I tend to be super conservative when it comes to stocking levels. Yeah, I saw the lag to Aquarium Activist. I was like looking at my broadcasting software. I'm like, what am I seeing there? Like this thing that's usually green is blinking orange and red. It's like, that can't be a good sign. So I'm just gonna wait here and not say anything. And then it eventually turned green. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, I need to check on one thing over here. I'm slightly confused at what I'm looking at on my screen. Okay. Tim Webb, is 9 DKH too high for zoas? Probably not. LPS are happy and growing. SPS seem to be growing too. Zoas are getting worse by the day. Can't think of anything else. Light is low, but they're melting. So Tim, that would be almost a sure sign that something is eating them. So I would take them out. And this is just like a technique that I would recommend to just about anybody that has like a colonial coral like that, that's having issues. Take it out of the tank and buy like a new makeup brush from like the grocery store, wherever you can find something like that in the cosmetic section, right? And you want like a makeup brush because like the bristles are very, very, very soft. And, or if you are uncomfortable, fellas, just go get a paintbrush, like a tiny little fine paintbrush, and just like work it around the polyps. Like, you know, to take the coral, put it into a little tub, usually like a white tub, that way you can see if there's anything, you know, popping off of it. And just work the brush around and see if there's anything that comes off. And sometimes you can even use like a dip, like iodine or Coral RX or Revive or whichever one you want, like a pest control dip, just to kind of like agitate whatever pests might be there. Just work it around, and there's a really good chance that you're going to find something there that is your problem. There are so many things that bother zoanthids specifically, that if everything else in the tank is doing well except for the zoas, it's almost assuredly something eating them. And they're very, very, very hard to see just with your naked eye while the thing is in your tank. I mean, like certain nudibranchs look just like zoanthids when they're in the colony. Certain like spiders don't look like anything except a closed polyp, but it's like a face hugger alien on your zoa polyp, things like that. So you kind of have to just to take the time out and do like the, you know, the deep inspection. Are soft corals okay in 1.020 salinity water? Probably not great for them. Kevin Dewey, my DKH jumped to 14.8, killed Duncan that had 50 heads. Yeah, that's super high. There's nothing in the tank besides snails. I already tried to make a brush trick last weekend. By any chance is one of those snails a pyramid snail? Because sometimes, because like obviously those are like coral eating. Jaffrey. Have you ever used the Zetlite 1201? I have not. Yeah, iodine-based dips do so as a world of good. Yeah, I agree with that. Daniel Saul, it's pretty funny to have 80 people in the stream and you're subbed to 9 out of 10 in the chat. I am sure everybody appreciates it. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, to actually be subscribed nowadays, you have to also hit the notification bell, because Google is kind of going, or YouTube is going kind of in the same way that Facebook is. So we have here something in the neighborhood of like 30 something thousand subscribers. But when I post a new video, all 30 something thousand don't get notified. It sometimes won't even show up in their subscription feed. They're kind of like going more towards a recommendation algorithm rather than a subscription based system. So, but like in Facebook, We have, I don't know, 10,000 people who like the page, but the way that Facebook works is it only shows new content to like a few people, and then if it does well, a few more people, and YouTube is kind of going to that as well. So if you actually like this channel and want to be subscribed, you also have to hit the bell these days. That's the only way to like guarantee notification. And that goes for any of the channels you like. And that's why you're probably hearing all of them say the exact same thing. Yeah, Bell Squad. All right. Have you ever dealt with bubble algae and how did you get rid of it? Foxface. Foxface is the #1 thing I used for bubble algae. The Reef Guy 5. My Stylos and Montes are all dying off, but all of my acros are doing great. Any idea what's going on? Is it possible you have too much light? I mean, generally you wouldn't expect it to affect Montes that much, but sometimes like the amount of light that you give an acro isn't necessarily the amount of light that you want to give another coral. Oh, kitty. What time is it? Is it noon? You telling me it's lunchtime? Okay, what is the best salt in your opinion? I don't really have one. We use Omega C here, but it's purely based on convenience. I think if you're already using something and happy with it, you may as well stick with it because changing is going to be a lot more stressful than just sticking with it. And I would say that the vast majority of salts these days perform basically the same. Seems like every algae problem can be solved by a foxface. Haha, pretty much. There's a reason why they're practically like only. I mean, they're one of the only fish that I would have in just about every aquarium. It's the foxface, it's the copper band, it's Millinaris wrasse, probably a damsel, like a Springer eye. So this cat, you probably can't see it. I know you can't see it, but she's very, very fat. She's 15 pounds. She does not need to be eating. The problem is I have 2 cats. One cat likes to eat. The other cat is very finicky. So the one that likes to eat eats double the food. It's very tricky. Yeah, but she's a very, very big plump kitty. Okay, Mindboggle 100. Hi Than, had a torch that got knocked during a tank clean. Later it died, but seemed to discharge a lot of brown stringy gunk. Do you think it was more likely the impact or brown jelly disease? That sounds like brown jelly. Yeah. Like a lot of times, especially with Euphyllia lately, they seem so susceptible to like a lot of types of infection and just heads dying off like really, really quickly. These days we try very, very hard to get all of our stuff aquaculture when it comes to Euphyllia. Kevin Dewey, would you prefer ROWAFOS over standard GFO? I haven't really used it before, and I currently don't use GFO, so I'm probably a bad source for that. But I don't know. I'm sure that there's some folks online that have weighed in on that topic, but they both would probably be effective. I'm not really sure what you're kind of going for with one versus the other. Let's see. Kayvon, how do you keep a copper band? So the big key for me has been to keep them well fed. And unfortunately, a lot of times they don't eat prepared food. And even if they do eat prepared food, they have to kind of like graze on it. So like lots of mysis over the course of the day. But really the best thing is to have a lot of live rock. The healthiest ones I've ever seen are in tanks full of live rock. We have like this 300-gallon tub, and again, tons of rock in there. And whenever we put in Aiptasia, it voraciously eats the Aiptasia. But it's always nice and plump because it can forage for stuff. So I think it's very important. If you're going to keep copper bands, you make sure it has enough rock. Rookie Reefer, Than, you've had a few scolies in your time. How often do you see specimens with 2 mouths? Occasionally. It's not common, but it's like maybe like 1 in 100 would have 2 mouths. Six-week-old tank, floor and bottom full of diatoms. What will I do? That's kind of a new tank thing. It goes through like a diatom bloom. That's pretty normal. It just goes away one day. Yeah, just like Kevin Dewey just said. Yeah, that's perfectly normal. Would a fox face fit in a 75-gallon? Live Aquaria says 125. I like what Live Aquaria has to say on that. The bigger the better. Like the only problem that we run into is like occasionally one of our tanks is smaller than 125, and we just simply need the algae control. But luckily we do have larger tanks to eventually move the thing into if it outgrows it. But yeah, I mean, you could probably manage in a 75-gallon, but it would be a lot better in a 125. What do you like most, cats or corals? The corals pay my bills, so I'd have to say that, but I really do love my cats. Joe N, why no GFO? I really don't have a problem with algae. It's not a huge pressing issue in my tanks. And short of that, like there is like a cost benefit to running GFO. Like you can strip out some nutrients that are actually good for the tank. A lot of people now use it, but I guess I kind of grew up in an age where there was no such thing as GFO, and tanks were fine. I mean, again, going back to Rico's tank here, no carbon dosing, no carbon as a chemical filtration method, no GFO, no water changes. So, I mean, I think that most people would be very, very, very happy with this level of success. So I guess like the idea that like, oh, you need to have GFO. And I know that you're not saying that, but I've never really seriously used GFO. I've used it like here and there, a tiny bit, not really anything crazy. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see it as, and I guess this is like my philosophy about a lot of things. If I'm able to remove like technology, remove methodology from my tank, I try to. Because you can always make your system more complicated. It's a lot more difficult to make your system simpler. And in that sense, because I don't have the issues associated with phosphate, not so much anyway. Even if my phosphate is high, I don't necessarily have a problem with algae. I'm able to remove GFO as a thing in my systems. And so like if I'm able to do that and still be successful, I'm happy. Let's see. Tristan J, do you carry a lot of aquaculture corals? What's your opinion on them? They're great, and yes, we do. What species of foxface do you recommend for a 125? Just like the regular ones, I guess. There's like this regular old black, white, yellow ones. Those are the ones. I don't get into two of the fancy ones. I mean, we have like a magnificent. They don't do as good of a job, and they might like bite coral more. Euler Kernigan. Hi Than, do you think that SPS corals have a better growth on high DKH, let's say 12, and have better coloration at 7? I don't know if there's a correlation that I've seen that's like that. I think, if anything, like just consistency and lighting might have more to do with it. So I would just be more inclined just to keep it completely steady, and then just make sure that basically steady period, I think, is a good way to go. I have a copper band, but I'm afraid it will pick at clams. I have 3 clams. Do you think it'd be too risky to get one? In my experience, they have not messed with clams. So I personally would not be too averse to that. Daniel Adams, do you like Zeovit? Not crazy about it, no. I'm not really crazy about ultra low nutrient in general. I've never really had great experiences with it. Now the guy that has is Will, and he's been on the live show before. He's also had his tank featured, and I'm actually planning on going and seeing his tank again and shooting with a better camera. But so lately, I guess, in the past year, we've looked at Rico's tank, we've looked at Nathan's tank, we've looked at Will's tank. All 3 of those are very, very different methodologies with all tremendous success. So, I mean, perhaps what I'll do one day is to shoot all 3 and just kind of just discuss the similarities and differences between all 3, because there's a lot to be learned from that. And again, all 3 of them are doing the hobby very differently from one another. And I would say that of them all, I'm probably doing it most similar to Nathan. But even then, there's obviously differences between his system and mine. So maybe I'll just say, what I'm doing differently from these guys and what they're doing differently from each other. And I would say that for the most part, we're all pretty good at what we've done. And I think most people would be pretty happy if they got any of our results. To varying degrees, I guess. Do you use J-bows in your greenhouse? I do not. Should I buy more Ecotechs? We only use the Ecotech return pumps, and sometimes those fail, but they're very good about replacing them. If I was to redo everything and design everything from the ground up from scratch, I would probably go with Iwaki pumps. And for power heads in the aquarium, I'm very happy with the Max Spec gyres. I like those a lot. Filefish to deal with Aptasia? You could. This is from Olu Matiola. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is I just don't like how they look. So I've never used one. Kevin Vilchis. In your experience, if someone had the money to do a greenhouse for a business for coral, would you recommend it? Or would you have done it another way? You can get into a greenhouse cheaper than you can get into a conventional structure, like a warehouse. So it kind of depends. It kind of depends what how much you're willing to spend up front, I guess. So if I was to do something now, I would do a warehouse, but there's 10 years between me starting and then me doing a warehouse, I guess. So it might not be like the most direct, path for somebody just getting into it, I guess. There's issues with both, I should say. Hands of Stone. Hi, Than. Rico's tank mostly being covered in blue cloves. Does this make it very hard for algae to grab hold of something and spreading? Yes, absolutely. If you have just a base of coral, it's practically impossible for algae to grow. Okay, catching up here on all these comments. Brian Goldstein. Dan, how's the new camera treating you? I absolutely love this guy. I love it. The only thing is this month has been so insanely busy that I just haven't had the time to even play with it. That's my only drawback is I've only had time to shoot a little bit, and then I went to Rico's house, and obviously you saw the video I just showed you there. But I want to get more people onto my little shooting calendar. I want to get some time to actually go to my own greenhouse and shoot some of the coral that we got there, because I want to redo some of the older videos, like the really old ones, maybe 3-4 years ago. Just because we've learned a lot more since then about those corals, and obviously the better camera is a good excuse to go shoot those guys again. Mind boggle. Do you have a tip for distinguishing cyano from coralline algae growing on rocks when they're both a similar color? Those look pretty different to me, and you can take a turkey baster and blow the cyano off. So, pretty different. Pretty different. Kevin Dewey. Than, I run 2 AI Hydra 52s over a 90 and have a very hard time figuring out the lighting. I'm even afraid I'm under lighting the tank due to fear of over lighting. I think if you're gonna miss, I would miss low than anything. Would you still say that tangs from the genus Stenochatus are the best complement to a fox face? I think that they're a good complement in the sense that they stay small. They are generally non-aggressive, whereas like a zebrasoma is kind of a jerk. Or an acantharus are super jerks. And they do a complementary job in that they rasp at the rocks, so they're better at controlling film. But then again, you could have gotten a lawnmower blenny. So yeah, I would say that bristletooths are good complements. These days, I would probably just avoid both. Unless like you really like a certain Stenochatus, like, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, I don't even know, but the bristletooth tangs. Like, I personally love chevron tangs. They're expensive, they're really pretty, and they eventually turn into a blackfish. But are they, is it necessary to have one of those? No, not really. I have nitrates at 5 parts per million. Is that too high for, I'm gonna guess like a green slimer acro and a red dragon acro. So Daniel, probably not. We have much higher nitrates, and it's not that bad. I mean, ideally it would be a little bit less, but that's only on paper. I think that it's fine. What type of climate is the greenhouse? Like humid, temperate? Does it snow there? Okay. We get like the worst of both seasons, I guess. So in the summertime, it can get up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. In the wintertime, it can go down to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes. Ohio winters can be brutally snowy. Yeah, Pretum, new to the hobby, confused with everything. Yeah, so this is always the thing that bit of advice that I give beginners getting in. This is actually a really, really, really good time for you that I think most people would love to be able to go back and relive. Because in this confusion, if you were to do 1 hour of research, it'll save you $1,000. So research as much as you possibly can before doing anything. Blake Grauman, how would you deal with remitted snails? I would manually remove them, especially if you're dealing with a relatively small aquarium. Like break them off, manually remove them, and just stick with it. Since you like the gyres, do you have a favorite setting? So Philip Tannell or Tannell, I just have them like blow straight across. I mean, we messed with like the differing flows and stuff like that. Just straight across, please. Simplicity. Hands of Stone. Do Rico's blue cloves not try to overgrow his acros and other corals? Everything is fighting for some dominance and real estate on the reef. So are they fighting with his acros and stuff? Yes, probably. But they clearly aren't that, I guess, aggressive, because like the corals aren't dying back at their base or anything. It kind of just like stops. So it stops the acro from encrusting down in the rock, but the acro itself stops the clove from then killing it and growing up its stalk. So in that sense, it seems to be a nice happy balance. But then again, your mileage may vary, because like in Nathan's tank, he has like 2 chalices growing and touching each other and fighting a little bit, but it's not a big deal. that happens in my tank, everything dies. Like, it's terrible. So, I don't know. You can try it out and see how that goes. It's certainly, like, when it works, it looks amazing. Okie doke. I, unfortunately, have to go a little bit early. I need to go grab some food. But if you guys have any last minute questions, I can try to handle those right now. And don't forget, live show is tomorrow, where I think we're done picking corals and labeling them, but then I have to go and upload them all to the website. I got that to look forward to this afternoon. But again, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the future as far as like live shows go. And again, if you guys weren't here earlier, because of this new camera here, I can't broadcast a live show with it any better than I can with my current camera. And that has everything to do with my internet connection. But I'm curious what you think about me shooting my corals the day before and then taking my whole like live show setup and going to like a friend's place that has a fiber connection that I can upload super high quality video live, but the corals themselves would not have been live. They would have been yesterday filmed. So I'm kind of curious to see if you guys have any issue with that, because I promise you, if that little setup works, it will look way better than what we're currently doing in terms of production quality. So mull that over, think about it, leave your thoughts in the comments about that. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell, or what I like to call really subscribe. Okay, last minute questions. Than, quickly, what's your thoughts on ultra low nutrient systems? I fail at them, other people seem to do very well. Had an ick velvet outbreak, killed all the fish. How long do you recommend to going fallow? Oh, good question. I can't really give you a really well-informed take on that, simply because I really haven't dealt with that personally. If it happened to me right now, without me doing any research, I would say 6 months. I have an Aqua C. I've had it for years. Everything seems fine. I've yet people put them down. Should I upgrade to a better, newer skimmer? Would I see a huge difference? You might not see a huge difference, to be perfectly honest. If it's working for you right now, I wouldn't change anything. Could you upload a video on your packaging routine when shipping corals, please? There are 2 of them already there. The more recent one, obviously, is what we're currently doing. Yeah, so definitely check out on that. Check that out. Foxy Frags. Hello, Than. Wink. Hello, Foxy Frags. I caught my peppermint shrimp eating my Recordia. Is that normal? I think when peppermint shrimp get really hungry, they can start acting out. Right? Like I said earlier in the stream, John, I think one of them killed a fish today that I'm not happy about, because I like that fish way more than I like that thing. Total light time, I would say 6 hours. That's my ideal point. Right now we get way more than 6 hours because of summer, but if it was me in a controlled setting, 6 to 8 hours max. Okay. All right, guys, show's over. So, but it's not over for long. Like in a little over 24 hours, we will be back at this. So please join me for the live sale, and hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll talk to you all later. Ending the stream. Maybe I'm ending the stream. I don't exactly know how I'm going to do this. No. All right, here we go. Technical difficulties. I can't even end the stream on time. Anyway, cheers. See you guys tomorrow.